Welcome in, friends. Hey Daphne, good to see you. Sweet Tea, welcome in. Lori Green, hello. Welcome back to the show, friends. We're just hanging around today, unscripted, unedited. We're shooting the shit and talking a bit about, well, the statements from Janie McKenzie, but we don't seem to get too far because of their effect on us. We got 38 minutes in yesterday, and it's a lot of recap. A lot of it you have heard, and some of it you probably haven't. And it's all in one place. It's a lot easier, than taking up the time trying to explain things to people. And listening to the clips is just so much easier, usually on your ears. However, a lot of people complain about Janie being difficult to listen to, and it has to do a lot with the scenario that we're in with Jack and Lily Sullivan. Yeah, well, thanks in chat, by the way. I can't say that. Is that Lindsay? Or no? Hold on, let me see. Jonah. Last night was on fire. Well, I had like 14 people unsubscribe from my channel, so I must have struck a nerve. But who knows? There's so many scam channels and sock accounts out there. People are having fun in my. It had me thinking, what I must have said something offensive to have so many people unsubscribe like that. But you never can quite tell. Maybe YouTube did a sweep. I'm not all that concerned about it because I know I didn't say anything that outlandish. But there's plenty of interesting conversations going on. If you're looking for it, over at Mike Demand, he's down an interesting angle, and he's into statement analysis in that sense, and he's down on an angle he's in on an angle about the pipeline, and there's mention even in the updated documents that you can find about the two friends that came to help Daniel. Was that Saturday? Yeah, he called them Friday, and they came in Saturday. It mentions their name, but I believe that they had a polygraph examination as well. So there's interesting questions because of the amount of time that Daniel spent down there under the guise of searching for Jack and Lily, when really it speaks to him and his friends obfuscating a crime scene in that sense, looking back on it now. It's a lot easier to get away with those things in the time and opportunize or pick your moments with the police, because obviously the perpetrator, the suspect, is already in the know. I mean, he's onto something. He's got a fair point. He's got fair points. I like watching Mike Demand. Good to see you, Daphne. Those documents are ridiculous in your opinion? Are you talking about the ones that were released and they're redacted? Yeah, I don't know. I tried not to have an opinion, because I don't want to make the mistake of getting too biased one way or the other. I'm happy that they've released clear and concise statements according to their investigation. That makes me happy. I find I have to do a lot of cross-referencing with the RCMP because I'm not as familiar with the Canadian Criminal Code, and they're always alluding to certain things in that sense. Hold on, I got all my screens screwed up. Like pursuant to the Canadian Criminal Code, 387.3. Thank God I've got Grok with me. Do a quick search on that shit. I'm so thankful for that. It's a great tool in that sense. But then you can get down some real avenues that, you get easily sidetracked, in other words. Yeah, YouTube have been taking subs, then they appear back in a few hours. Oh, really? Yeah, actually, it has been doing that. It's up and down. I just thought it was somebody messing with me. Yeah. Oh, crap. I appreciate your comments in my comment section, by the way. Hold on here. I got logos on. I got... may as well say hello to everybody. I've got my goggles on. Hey, Rob. Good to see you. And then they appear back in a few hours. Yeah, there I am. Yeah, it was weird last night. There was so many people on. I didn't realize that. I just thought I'd start doing something different. I got to get back into the habit of just coming up here. Eventually, and hopefully, it'll become a lot more informative as information is released. But it never hurts getting in front of the microphone and talking about the case as it should be talked about. In my opinion, everybody has their own preferences, and you can't argue them, right? So everybody does their own little thing in that sense. I go and tune in to other channels here and there. I have appreciation for most of the channels. There's some problem channels out there, obviously. I noticed Benny Keys is back, and he made an appearance over on Share. I got to give him a shout out. Maybe he's allowed to be back on or not. I won't mention his name. Hopefully he's allowed back on YouTube as just to keep things interesting. AB, I heard that hold on, I got my cameras and things all mixed up. I can't see you properly. I've got to move you a little bit. There you go. There we go. That's a lot easier. I heard that there were claims that Janie and Colonel Earl McKenzie are related. I thought his name was Louis McKenzie, the famous Canadian major. Is that who you're referring to? Who is Colonel Earl McKenzie? I've got no idea about that. Is that just a made-up name? It's a fairly common name. You know, there's a lot of Mackenzies in that sense. That's a big clan. I'm not sure about that, Rob, but I'm trying to figure out who Colonel Earl McKenzie is in that sense. Maybe you slipped one past me. I apologize for not knowing who that is. But I know. I used to have books by that major, and his name was Mackenzie too. He was involved in the Rwanda genocide. He was down there with the United Nations, and you know, there's a lot of politics around that. Hold on, where'd you go? Yeah, man, there's just no way they are clear, says Daphne. I mean, I'm not blaming anyone. I just have my own opinion, and from seeing what's happening in other cases, I appreciate your opinion. Not even disagreeing. I tend to agree with you. I wish there was some. I feel if I was to explain it, you just have to get used to it. It's a slightly different way that they do business in that sense. And I find if I try to explain it, I sound like I'm simping for the RCMP, and that's the last thing I want to do. Not that I have any problem with them, I just don't want to be their simp. I mean, they do what they do. It's like this every time. You know, it has us feeling when you're... this is the problem you have to be aware of, and you probably are. You don't... When you're going through things in the moment, it's like you get offended, or at least I do, that I'm not privy to all of the information, and then you tend to get your bias up one way without taking regard for what it actually takes to bring and solve these particular cases. I do have a deep appreciation for detective work and that, and I don't want to. I just like to joke about not liking cops, but you know, I like cops when you need them, not when you don't. Like everybody. But I don't mind getting up here and talking about things that I'm passionate about. In this case, strikes a nerve. And it's worth talking about because, you know, it drives a person crazy when you realize that you know who the guilty parties are in a circumstance like this and don't have enough evidence, or the Crown prosecutor doesn't believe that they have enough evidence to be confident enough to bring a conviction one way or the other. And you're never quite sure about what it is that you're looking at because you get your information most times through controlled media. And of course, it's each and every word is so very important in that sense. You know, it's frustrating, and it has to do with getting your information in real time and trying to keep up on things in that circumstance. This is why channels that go what you would otherwise call boots on the ground in that circumstance and bring just a different angle to a scenario like this, I believe, is important, and it can be very important and very helpful. And you can also really fuck it up and do it in a way that doesn't do it justice. And people make their mistakes, and everybody's human in that sense. But I still have an appreciation for people that go and bring that angle. If it's just clips or just a camera, it's worth it. And that's why I love YouTube in that sense. What's going on, Jumpers? I appreciate that. It's very generous. Excuse me, I'm sniffling for whatever reason. Yeah, Mike was on last night doing a 3-hour live stream when I got off, and I'm like, holy fuck, I got off, I was bone tired, and then went and started watching him. Lost my earbuds too in my bed. I nodded off. I nodded off like Malaya on a May 2nd morning. I heard that were claims. AB, I heard that there were claims, but Janie and Colonel Earl Mackenzie... Oh, I went the wrong way. I mean, I'm not blaming anyone. I just have my own opinion. From what I'm seeing happened with the other case. I agree with you, Daphne. Rob... I'm not as mean as some. Even poor Kent was catfishing strays last night, or is catching strays last night. Are you talking about that dude over on It's a Criming Shame? That guy? Isn't that Kent? He seems to be an okay dude, actually, looking back on it. He seems to be an okay guy. It's not like he's done anything too crazy. He's okay. What was he doing last night? Or is he complaining or doing something different? Oh, you like to sit up with the screens? It's all right. I like this to fool around with things like that. This is called Night Mode by Tactical Lion Designs. Actually, I give it to you on Streamlad's desktop. You got to pay for it. So it's not like I just conjured it up myself. But you know how it goes. Welcome, everybody. Holy mackerel. Thank you very much, Jumpers. That's very generous, by the way. Make sure you give Jumpers a high five. Who just said that? Jonah. They messed up my identity theft report. You had your identity stolen? Or are you talking to the RCMP did? Must have wrote your name down wrong. Hold on. Just a second, my friends. Oh, Amanda Graham, I appreciate you becoming a member too. Welcome. I got to start putting in more effort when it comes to my members' content. I should start doing that like ASAP. Yeah, I dozed off last night. Dozed off and lost my... Actually, it was my last one. I already lost the other one. My other earbud. It's probably better for me. Better for my brain in that sense that I'm not shooting these weird microwaves and expanding my cochlear. It's not a healthy thing, but it's so addicting. Yeah, Kent's just trying to do what he can, says Invisible Intuitive. Oh, you guys are talking about it. I wonder what he was... I'm going to have to go look. Mike's channel was a little harsh, in your opinion? Oh, was he? Last night? Lindsay. He was being harsh. Well, I think he was trying to mimic Ninchi. He was trying to make fun of her accent in that sense. An Australian accent. Things sound preposterous to people who speak German. He speaks a different language, so I take it with a grain of salt. The reason that Ninchi speaks that way and slows down is because that's what you're trained to do. That's what you're supposed to do in proper language work through a microphone. And if you can develop like a cadence, even if you have an impediment, something that sticks out and is memorable in the listener's mind, it's even better and really more effective when you're trying to build, something like this. I get why she sounds like that, but if that's what you're referring to, he's just having... Everybody has an opinion, right? I'm not too concerned. I appreciate Ninchi nonetheless. People are different in their analysis. You hate it when you lose your iPods? Oh, I would too. Those are way too much money. That would drive me nuts. No way I could be losing something. Those are, what are they, 180, 200 bucks? Probably more. Yeah, I pay like 80 bucks. I get it probably a couple of years out of them before. I've got them like 3 sets up there. Always lose one. It happens like that. Then I'll find them. I know they're around somewhere, under something. I'll find them when I clean. Kent's jamming around in a wheelchair, putting up Jack and Lily signs. Salt of the earth, is he? Well, good. That's a good man, says Kay. You got to be out there on the beat. That's what we're talking about appreciating. Somebody should stick a camera to him, bring back some footage. When he filed the report, the police messed it up. Totally inept. Well, they put the rookies at the front desk to deal with the public, so you got to give them, you got to work with them. I won the case, but had to hire a lawyer. Oh, you went, oh, wow, okay. It happens. Sorry you went through that. If you've got your earbuds in, by the way, or any noise canceling headphones, it's going to be perfect, because the next set of clips, you're probably going to want to listen closely to these Janie statements. Kent's got associations to Derwood and Daniel. Does he really? I didn't know that. I see. Thank you guys for telling me that. I didn't know that. Not that I know that to be true. Listen, I don't know that to be true. Mike's a smart guy, you're saying, and I understand why Kent's association to Derwood and Daniel would be suspect. But I was in the fundraiser chat and know the lore. Interesting, Lindsay. Thank you for letting me in on the beans there. So you're telling me Kent and Derwood are already buddies? Well, that taints it. From early on, probably. He probably interviewed him early on. Derwood, come talk to me. Oh, we listened to that last night too with Janie. Janie talking about her opening up to Derwood because he treated her so nicely. He must have, did the deed. He romanced her. Romanced the pants right off Janie. He bribed her pants off with dog treats, perhaps. Let me see. Oh, don't even go there? Okay, I have to refresh my chat. Where the hell did everybody go? I had to update my chat. Oh my god, you guys are generous as all hell. Let me read this. I appreciate that very, very much, Julia. Love you a couple of coffees, at least, for your content for us. I appreciate that very much, Julia. I have to change my screen settings. I can't see from all across the room here. It must be something in my contacts. I don't know what the hell it is. It's probably because the light's shining. I get it. Thank you very much, by the way, Julia. You like that intro, Anna? That's almost insulting, but thank you. It sounds like an intro that should be on a TV sitcom from the 80s. It's not bad for AI generated stuff. I mean, it didn't pay anything for it. I just went up and it took me months to get it to a tolerable, place, but I didn't do anything special. Don't like it too much. Yeah, someone said you should do ASMR true crime, Daphne. Daphne to fall asleep to. That would be a good idea. There's a lot of that people just start putting to fall asleep to now. It's a new thing, right? Just the compilation videos. It seems to be a popular thing. I get trapped in those. Like, oh, I like the history ones, like the ones that are read like a choose your own adventure book. Like it's like boring history to fall asleep to type of thing. But there's so many AI generated channels out there that really, it's like a sick addiction. Hello, Shelley Fraser. You're in Pictou County right now? Is it as chilly out there as it is here? It's only 18 degrees. It's not that chilly. Finally. Rob, you're talking about this Kent being buddies with Derwood and Daniel? Well, maybe that's tough to listen to. I didn't know that. It doesn't. I don't know the guy. Nonetheless, he seems nice enough. But he's tainting all your minds. He's a plant in there. I think he's just a good Samaritan in this circumstance, a local, which we should be appreciative of. You can always taint somebody's relationship. You can always get in their minds and drive divide between them and break them up. Start nasty rumors online. You don't want to do that. Derwood and Daniel trust Kent. He's pretty fair when talking about them publicly. That's all I can say. Yeah. Nothing wrong with that, though. He's been tainted, Charmaine. He's been tainted. He's been gotten to. I think that's the fear. You read people from who live there, allegedly, you say. Has a con artist obviously took it with a grain of salt. He's a con artist, Julia? Oh, you're not wrong with that. Derwood? Yeah. We're well experienced with Derwood. What a douchebag, dude. Like, even in the moment, very difficult to deal with and listen to. Mr. Important. He's so self-important. But he's homeless now. Remember when he was dry begging early on? It was dry begging too. Those dog... Well, I still can't figure it. I don't think she actually, Jonah, took that bribe, those dog treats. Because she never said the journalist was trying to bribe me, because she never finished the statement. She just screamed out that she's had people try to bribe her with dog treats, cigarettes, all kinds of things. Like, what is she really saying when she's upset about that? You know, and then she comes to say, you know, after she tells the story that she never went for it. She turned them away. Like, first off, it should be unnecessary, Janie. You shouldn't be so resistant to communication in this circumstance. Why are you so defensive, and why are you unable to even have a conversation about the circumstances surrounding Jack and Lily? It was an interesting confession in that sense, though. An interesting statement. Ann Warren says Kent's warehouse burned down at the end of June. I'm sorry to hear that. He did know Derwood from before the tragedy as his family excavation business. There is something about how he inserts himself, interrupts. E5 speed car. What do you mean, Ann? Derwood has a 5-speed? Well, I noticed over on Mike's that he was going through the local property maps and the property tax appraisal maps from around the locale, and he noticed a couple Gettys just like kitty corner of where Jack and Lily live. So the answer to that is yeah. You know, Derwood probably knows them, and there you go. He probably lied, you know, in the beginning as to how he came to know all of this, you know. Like there's not that many people around. But does it matter? Who's to say? We know how sketchy he is. Like you could see it. Well, in a community like that, doing a person a solid and covering for them, no matter what it is, even from the heat from the public, goes a long way internally. You have to live around the individuals, right? So you act a little bit differently. I'm not giving any excuses by any means. That is good info, Ann. I'm sorry to hear about Kent's warehouse. So they're all probably friends. I don't know if that's a big deal. You never heard of people going in and out of sleep so much as this bunch? Yeah, they're a tired bunch, it seems, for people who are on methamphetamine all the time. So high strung. You think that you would be not sleeping at all and you're up with your eyes wide open staring at everything, looking out the windows. Paranoid. It's hot and humid in Nova Scotia? Oh, heaven's sakes, Faye. 73 in California today. It's probably about 68 degrees right now. Beautiful sleeping weather right now. Full moon in the UK already? Yeah, it's we're having a full blood super moon. We're going to have a crazy cycle in the markets coming up, if you believe in that sort of thing. They're talking about the moon phases affecting the markets in that sense. And every time that we go through a moon phase like this, we always go on a specific, run for the next certain amount of time. Do I believe that? Well, I guess we'll see. I'm not posting any 100x longs. That's for sure. Let me see. I think Derwood was just going off of what he was told. Early on? Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, that was his... I don't disagree with you. But I mean, he's getting all of his information from Daniel, and he's just turning around and bringing it, in a more public setting in that circumstance. But how he was doing it, the way he was doing it was questionable. Always putting himself in a situation where he's got all of this information that needs protected, and what comes with all of this. It just seems a bit bullshitty, pal. Like he wasn't talking about the case, anything other than how innocent Daniel was at that point in time. It was pretty difficult. She was bribed and refused everything besides the booze. It's hard to turn that down, Amanda. It's expensive. She must be a fan of scotch. I could hardly tell. Crime Time watcher. I found it interesting too. I read that somebody in my comments mentioned that it was Janie, and she's told the story slightly differently, which would be an inconsistency, and that was in the beginning. It's in that these particular clips, Janie, used the term filling potholes, and later adapted and changed to raking out gravel in order to level off for this kids pool. So Janie's story's changed in that sense, as far as I'm concerned. And we heard that here, and that was a good observation. I never pointed that out last night. I was getting tired and stoned. It's ironclad LMAO, Shelley Fraser. Yeah, you remember that? 1,000% sure. 1,000% sure. Janie's got a rake being bribed by CBC. You think the CBC could give you some cool swag? I don't know about that, J-List. I've never heard anybody refer to ATVs or a four-wheeler as 5 speeds. The moon was beautiful last night, by the way. It was huge. I like this time of year. It comes out of the east and then goes right across my windows. It's quite nice. Think Malaya is on the sleepy kind of meds? Quite possibly. Don't want to start guessing about that yet, Jonah. But she probably needs something to calm her down from living around this angry landlord all the time. Janie, we picked up and we'll pick up where Janie, has no problems telling people really how horrible of a parent Malaya is. Which could be partially true, but it allows us a bit of a peek into the sort of life that Malaya and the kids have in that particular trailer, and that was shocking. He's a grown man. I can't defend his actions, but he didn't know Darren before this. But these 3 people trust him for whatever reason. When you're in their circumstance, Darren fits the profile of a mark. So he comes in and he's manipulated and used and turned back out there. They told him whatever, and he went out with that and shared all of the information. It was really easy in that sense. Derwood was eager to help. Cindy didn't want any part of Derwood, but everybody around the house and everybody around that property, there's a few different properties down there with the name Geddes. It isn't Darren necessarily, but it's his family, indicating that he probably spends a lot of time in the area, I would imagine. Yeah, Shelby, Darren ran a great business for many years, like 40. Is that right? Yeah, you want to plug his business in my live chat? Go right ahead, Darren, too. Oh, Jesus. Maybe he was just a well-meaning individual. Maybe he's got more to do with it. Maybe he was used and brought as an accessory to help, establish this false narrative. Strong possibilities. You would expect that to happen, but, it's just, it shouldn't be anything to get hung up on. It's just Darren shooting his mouth off, thinking he's got all of this important information. I'm out of London, Julia. Just north of Lake Erie. Yeah, the land on the map of Mike's video is really interesting. Geddes own a big property beside Janie's and Daniel's. Yes, please go over and check out Mike Demand's live stream from last night, I believe it was on, if you want to look further into that. Yeah, I thought that was really interesting as well. Why would he insert himself into the case, J. Liz? That's just us saying that. I don't know. What do you think? Why would he insert himself into the case? Do you think he did, or was he brought in as a close confidant type of thing in the moment under the guise of being a good Samaritan? Like Daniel needed somebody to tell all his bullshit lines to in order to, go out and spread the word. He was used early on in that circumstance. He was sleuthing it out, wasn't it? That's the way he was portraying himself to be, as far as I could remember. But he was, at the time, if you remember, it was all about having the information or having information that nobody knew before about what Daniel and everybody in Malaya were saying in the background. But he's a spaz. I mean, Darren turns out to be a huge douchebag, and he was a huge douchebag in the moment when you were listening to him. Yeah, the land lot map in Mike's video is really interesting. Hold on, I see that. When you're saying Derwood spoke about how Daniel's sketchy friends came to see him, gave you bad vibes, Daphne? When he spoke about Daniel might be hiding the kids. And when he spoke about Daniel might be hiding the kids. I can't remember that scenario. I can't remember that scenario exactly. Anna Warren near Earls, note the ATV trails in the back when comparing map to Google Earth. Right across the street, isn't it? You can see right across from where I think Earl's house is. You can see that there is like a access from the gravel into the land, the open land that's been used. There's access all over the place. What's up, Norbeaster? Don't be working too hard today. They claim to give about... Hold on, I gotta fix this up. I can hardly read this. Why can I not read this? It's probably because I have that light on in my eyes. Hold on. Heaven's sakes. I'll figure this out yet. All right, that's fine. Bonjour, Esther. Good to see you. Yeah, remember he said that if Daniel was hiding the kids, then I know he would have had a... Remember he said that if Daniel was hiding the kids, then I know he would have unalived them. Is that what you're trying to tell me? See, first off, that doesn't make any sense, for crying out loud. What is... Even Derwood talks in riddles, to a degree. Can you not talk directly about something? This is how I know that Daniel didn't unalive. That sounds like Daniel trying to convince you, and you're just relaying whatever that nutter put in your head. It makes no sense. Like he's tried to pull that a couple times, talking about, this is how you know that, I didn't hurt Jack or Lily because of some other, rando thought that has no it's not tangible to the scenario. Doesn't make any sense. Oh, okay. It's another scenario where you have to take his word for it, or that's the intent. Maybe I did, Daphne. Maybe I did, but I think I choose to block out that bullshit from Darren. As soon as I recognized how unreliable he was. If you're innocent, you don't need to prove that you're innocent. You get me? Oh, I get it. Believe me, I get it. When you're innocent, you don't have the need to go around proving that you had nothing to do with something in this circumstance on a continuous basis. Derwood toxin vodka. Okay. I'm sure he appreciates that. Thanks for the reminder out there for next time somebody wants to talk to him, putting the word out. That's funny. Oh, I get you, Daphne. That's a good point. All right, cut the nonsense. Let me see. Let me pull this up. Laurie Green says, if you're involved in 2 kids missing, give a statement to the police, then go on social media and tell lies and change it. Script sounds like a load of BS, knowing police watch social media. Yep. Roger that, Laurie Green. Oh, no way I think those kids are hidden, Tammy Burke. But that's my personal opinion. Don't let that stop you from developing your own in this. Let's start with where we left off yesterday with Janie. Timestamp 37 minutes. We'll pick it up at. Where were we?
I can't tell you why Malaya is not showing up at the visuals. The reason I didn't show up is I didn't want to be attacked by reporters. I didn't go, but I plan on going to the next one because I got my story out there. I got the truth out there. But I'm not going to an event and be bombarded by reporters.
Oh yeah, her Elizabeth Taylor moments.
That's why I didn't go to the first one. But I will be going to the second one. Because I couldn't handle all these reporters coming up to me and me breaking down in a whole bunch of people. I cannot talk to reporters. The only reason why I got the reporters to come here is because it was on the property, and the reporter said to me, talk to me. She wasn't there to judge me like everybody else is judging me. I got my truth of the story out there, and I'm glad I did, because now the weight is off of my chest, and I am out there telling you guys what happened. Someone actually sat down and listened to me without criticizing me.
It's funny, it sounds like the same things that she told Earl.
Just like Darren did. That's the reason I opened up to Darren, because he did not criticize me.
I wonder if Darren was the contractor that she fooled around with and, brought her and Earl's love affair to an end, her marriage.
I listened to him. He listened to me. He did not judge me. That's why I opened up to him for the first time in 2 months. And yes, I'm going to tell you something. I had a reporter bribe me to talk to her. She bribed me with cigarettes and dog treats. And she even bribed someone else with a case of beer, just so she could get a story. Now, you want me to talk to reporters like that? No, I did not. And yes, I'm going to tell you something. I had a reporter bribe me to talk to her. She bribed me with cigarettes and dog treats. And she even bribed someone else with a case of beer, just so she could get a story. Now, you want me to talk to reporters like that? No, I did not.
So what is it she's trying to tell us there? I think that she's trying to give us justifications and reasoning as to why she's not talking to reporters. Like, why wouldn't you just talk to reporters? Why would it take a bribe like that? Somebody's out trying to get a story off you, trying to get a scoop and inside, some inside information. Isn't she trying to pull the wool over our eyes right here? Why would there be any inside information in a situation where we're desperately looking for 2 missing children? from your perspective there, Grandma, we don't need to have any secrets. And you're talking about how the audacity of a journalist asking you for a bunch of information that they want and you have, and you're bringing it up as though they had the audacity to offer you a bribe in order to get that. What does that tell people? That you have guilty knowledge in that sense.
And this reporter that I was talking to, Allie, I got to meet her before I did my interview. I talked to her to see if I was comfortable with talking to her. And I did feel comfortable talking to her. So that's why I did the interview with her. Yes, Daniel did do a lot for those kids. Yes, I will say that. And I will also say the only time that Jack and Lily and Meadow ever went to town is when Daniel was with them, because Malaya couldn't handle all 3 kids. And I'll tell you something else.
The only time that Jack and Lily went to town is if Daniel took them. Because Malaya couldn't handle all 3 kids. It doesn't even seem rational. It seems so preposterous to say. Like, these are the types of things that had to have been, thrown towards Malaya throughout her stay there. Like, things like this. Like, why would you even say that about somebody? Like, wouldn't you consider taking the kids to town? Like, why is it that everything that Daniel does with the kids supposed to be the job of only Malaya? Like, what happened to this being a family in this circumstance? And you know what? You've got a 15-month-old baby. Taking the kids out, and mom staying at home is not a crazy thing. Sometimes people need a break in that sense during the day. Sometimes the kids need to get outside and do something, get away from the TV. So how does that turn into something like we just heard? Like, as it's being measured, you know what I'm saying? By Janie back there, as if it's actually a thing. They want to talk about how Malaya wasn't doing anything with Jack and Lily in that sense. I find that so hard to believe. Maybe there's some truth to it, but it seems a little bit excessive. It seems a little bit one-sided, to the point of, well, what the hell was the point on being together in the first place if Daniel doesn't carry his load, and his mind's being divided because he's being coached about all of the things Janie thinks that is Malaya's responsibility in their relationship. Could you imagine such meddling? Holy shit, no wonder people were going crazy.
For the last 2 years, I observed those kids in my backyard. And the only time that Malaya went out with those kids is when she took Meadow out. And when she took Meadow out, that's all she would do was take her over to see the chickens. I have never seen I have never seen Malaya push those kids down on the swing or even watch them go down the slide. I've never seen her out there playing with the kids. In the wintertime, I would go out and throw snowballs at them, build snowmans with them, build a tall snowbank for them to go sledding in. All the grandchildren. And I would try to go coasting with them, but I have some medical problems. I couldn't really go coasting with them, but I would push them down the hill in the sleigh. I would play snowballs with them. I'd build snowmans with them. I never seen Malaya ever do that with them. When she was out watching them coast, she was pulling Meadow around in the sleigh. after Meadow was born, yes, Meadow got all the attention. I seen that with my own two eyes, yes.
Told you she said that. I seen that with my own two lies. Why did Malaya delete her secret WhatsApp or whatever it was after speaking to her mom and grandma the day of the incident? Because she doesn't need it anymore, because that's all she used it for, to communicate with them, I'm guessing. We don't have a clear answer or statement from her. But we know that they made mention about it in the paperwork and said that it could possibly help solve or find out what had happened, because one, what sticks out in my mind is it would indicate the time in which Malaya and Cindy were talking, hopefully, which would be another shot to the story of Daniel and Janie. So it was submitted. And by the way, I noticed that they, remember a couple of weeks ago, we talked about whether or not they inquired about the geospatial imaging systems that are up in our atmosphere. Well, they already applied for that, and they didn't get a good profile because of the scattered cloud during the certain days, but they have some, and it's a very low probability that it will be of any benefit because of the time of the cloud cover. I had noticed. It doesn't mean anything. It's just the words that were in that particular report. We don't really know what had happened, but I thought that was interesting. So, well, it seems that the RCMP, if you're going to that extent in that particular service, that's quite pricey. They did the service and gave them a price already. That tells me that they are investigating this situation, assuming that there's foul play involved, and they're trying to corroborate stories with this imaging, or trying to match up the claims. So it tells me that, they're fairly suspicious of the bullshit story at hand, and they know full well that it's nonsense.
Jack and Lily were sort of put on the back burner, yes. I've never seen, when I would go in there after school, I would never see Malaya sit down and do their homework with them. I would never see...
She's really piling it on. I mean, they're 4 and 6 years old. How much homework do you think that they're going to have? Sounds to me that she's just exaggerating because she's fabricating. What's true with all of this is they have a problem with Malaya. Daniel moves her in promising, you carry half the load in a circumstance like this. But prioritize Meadow? That's what he's putting the blame on Malaya for. Well, heaven forbid she's a baby, for crying out loud. What are you doing to help, Daniel? The person that you supposedly love in this circumstance. You can see it through their language that they blame everything. It doesn't matter what happened. They'll blame it on Malaya. Therefore, they'll blame it on the kids. The kids got treated worse than Malaya got treated there. Absolute. Well, that might be the understatement of the year, I know. But, I mean, I'm trying to get you to conceptualize the environment in which she was living in. Yeah, that's a good possibility, Ariel. Thank you very much. Jay is projecting because she didn't do that with her kids. Yeah, that's a strong possibility too. Just like she there's probably a better term for it, but she speaks through her dog. You know what I mean? She interchanges her feeling, but inserts the dog's in her statement and speaks, from their perspective, but it's really her perspective in that sense, her intuition.
Malaya, read to them. I would always read to them when I babysit them. Yes, I babysit Jack and Lily. Whenever they went somewhere, I would babysit them. And I had no problem with Jack and Lily. Jack and Lily would sit with me and watch TV. I would take Jack. He would hold him in my arms. He would pretend he was swimming. He would pretend he was playing airplane. Lily would be running around showing me her dolls. And, yes, I did more interaction with those children than Malaya did. And as I was saying, if you have to call their mother to tell them that Jack has no boots on or Jack has no coat on, and if she's supposed to be watching them all the time, that's a bunch of bullcrap. Because I would even watch my other 2 grandchildren when they were out in the yard, and I would always keep an eye on them when they were in the yard. And I was always yelling for them, where are you guys, where are you guys? And the only time those kids really got outside is when she was putting Meadow down for her nap. And when she would put Meadow down for her nap, she would go down for a nap too with Meadow. Well, as I said, that's between her and Malaya. Well, as I said, that's between her and Malaya. Well, let's start with Jack. Jack was a curious little boy. He was a happy little go-lucky boy. But I'll tell you, if he didn't want to do something, he wasn't going to do it. Because when I would get after him to put his shoes on, and when he was running around his bare feet, I would say, Jack, put your shoes on. I've said this. And he would just stand there and put his arms up, fold his arms up, and go, eh, 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 eh. And that's all I would get out of him. Other than that, he was a curious little boy. That's all he would do all day. When he was outside was sit and turn boards over or rocks over looking for bugs and worms. I had my granddaughter down digging worms for the chickens. Jack and Lily would sit with me and watch TV. I would take Jack. He would hold him in my arms. He would pretend he was swimming. He would pretend he was playing airplane. Lily would be running around showing me her dolls.
You know what she sounds like? What's that bit from Goodfellas with is it Goodfellas? No, it's not Goodfellas. Oh, it's that part from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles with John Candy and Steve Martin when he loses his temper in the hotel room and he starts yanking his belly like a doll with a cord, that speaks. Blah, 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 blah. She's doing an imitation. Can you believe the way that she's speaking about the kids in that sense? That's shocking.
And, yes, I did more interaction with those children than Malaya did.
Can you believe this? Isn't this an admission to you, to everybody, about her reasons for being involved in making them missing? Is that not an admission to you, telling you about why they had it with Malaya and the kids? Because they had the responsibility bestowed upon them. That was their perception in all of this. And they're blaming Malaya because in their eyes, it was her kids, her job to raise her kids. It was nothing about being a part of a family in all of this. Because we all know that it takes a village to raise a family. There's no, this is my job, this is your job. Okay? You're now wanting to take credit, Janie, for spending way more time around the kids. Well, that blows your claim out of the water about minding your own business and never knowing what goes on up there because that's their lives. That blows your attempt to distance yourself away from the situation. You can't have it both ways. Who the hell are you to insist that you spent the majority of the time around the 2 kids who are now missing? That can't even be confused.
And as I was saying, if you have to call their mother to tell them that Jack has no boots on or Jack has no coat on, and if she's supposed to be watching them all the time, that's a bunch of bullcrap.
Wow. Wow. Joyce, and welcome to customer. Thank you very much for becoming a member. I appreciate that. Daphne's saying, think about this. Janie was the last person to hear the kids and was outside last before they went missing. Yeah, she's putting herself at the scene of the crime. Oh my God, you don't have to be a regular at the murder mystery dinner theater to solve this one, do you? If you don't believe Janie, she'll just yell louder. My God. Wow. Like, this is like a new classification of douchebaggery, Janie. Oh my God. Oh, sounds like a stabbing or jabbing, Slim Pickens says. Is that what you're getting? Yeah, you think that's why they searched her RV so many times, Daphne? You're probably onto something, and they're looking for some sort of trace evidence, trace DNA of the kids, like on maybe a pocket knife or on maybe a blunt object that they can send off to the lab, because there's a lot of information. You know, of course, they're not going to share what they confiscated as evidence or took swabs of. J. Lil sounds like she's justifying. Yeah, you know, it can get confusing in the statement analysis sometimes. Not that really. The whole point to it is to show you red flags and areas of deception in that sense. And when you come to realize everything that she's saying is exaggerated and fabricated, still within that lie, she has to base it off of a lot of times little snippets of the truth and reality. And remember, the truth and the reality in the situation doesn't really change. So it seems that her pattern, you know, like she likes to sit there and place her at this particular scene knowing full well, you know, in the back of her mind how that looks, but her way she goes about it is, you know, that admission is demonstration that shouldn't be taken into consideration. You know, somehow you need to bend the normal rules in this because of their, I wouldn't even call it being cooperative. Would you consider Janie and how she's being cooperative? I don't think so, even though she's doing a lot of talking. I mean, if you were there and dealing with her, I would want her to think that she was being cooperative. But could we really consider Janie to be cooperative in any of this? No, I don't think so. So what happens in a circumstance like this when the key piece of the alibi keeping the story together turns out to be lying and as unreliable and on the edge, ready to jump out, like the stress, and she's so paranoid, and she's admitting all of this? It doesn't change the rules of the game. It doesn't change the rules in the circumstance. No matter how many times we listen to her, how much we get to know her, or how much we get to laugh or get to enjoy her company. Why does she have the need to be out here speaking like this in the first place? Well, it was clever in the beginning because it occupied our minds because the pressing question in the room is, where is Jack and Lily? And when the heat starts coming back where it should, their first move is to point their finger at Malaya. And the words that come out of their mouth are what we're hearing here today. And what do they say? They put all the blame on Malaya and really do sound a whole lot like justifications. And we put all of those justifications together, you start to think a justification for what? And that would be the harm that was brought to two innocent children in this circumstance because they've got a different perspective of family life. This all has to center around the resentment that Janie felt towards Malaya for even moving them in. She didn't meet the criteria. She didn't live up to the high standards set out by, the crazy lady in the RV in the backyard. I'd be like, who the hell are you to talk to me like that? You live in an RV in my backyard. But they're paying rent, right? You can't talk to the landlord like that. Maybe she's not as asshole-ish as I am in that sense. But, I would consider probably Malaya as a fairly passive individual. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know her. We don't know her that well. Like, there's no way you can believe Janie when she says she's so welcoming. She the language doesn't reflect the claims in that sense. A person who's sensitive, honest, and caring sounds a whole lot like a person, how Belinda, for example, sounds in comparison, to make a better comparison. Complete polar opposites. And that speaks. There's nothing medically or physiologically wrong with her that would make her say and do and come across the way that she comes across. It's not us confusing it. There's a reason for it, sadly. And when you find yourself, you get there, you want to deny it because you can't believe that you're there looking at it. And that's where Janie likes to play. She's a manipulator and she's a good liar. If there is ever such a thing in a circumstance like this, but not good enough to get away with it, because she admits the paranoia that comes with what would come with knowing that you're not being 100% truthful. We'll phrase it for the sake of YouTube algorithm. She does have a sharp tongue. She's not afraid to tell Malaya what she thinks at any one time. That has to be very difficult to live with. That's judgmental. Janie, of all people, is a very judgmental person in that sense because of her perception of how kids should be raised. Think about how young and inexperienced of a mother Malaya is. She is not even fully mature herself, probably. Or just getting into that age right now.
Because I would even watch my other two grandchildren when they were out in the yard. And I would always keep an eye on them when they were in the yard. And I was always yelling for them, where are you guys? Where are you guys? And the only time those kids really get outside is when she was putting Meadow down for her nap. And when she would put Meadow down for her nap, she would go down for a nap too with Meadow. Well, as I said, that's between her and Malaya. Well, as I said, that's between her and Malaya. Well, let's start with Jack. Jack was a curious little boy. He was a happy little go-lucky boy. But I'll tell you, if he didn't...
Well, I'll tell you about Jack. He was a happy-go-lucky little boy, but... he wouldn't listen to me. He wouldn't listen to Janie when she told him not to do that again. This part of her statement really sits with me. It resonates, but not
Jack and Lily would sit with me and watch TV. I would take Jack. He would hold him in my arms. He would pretend he was swimming. Jack and Lily would sit with... Well, let's start with Jack. Jack was a curious little boy. He was a happy little go-lucky boy. But I'll tell you, if he didn't want to do something, he wasn't going to do it. Because when I would get after him to put his shoes on, and when he was running around his bare feet, I would say, Jack, put your shoes on. I've said this. And he would just stand there and put his arms up, fold his arms up, and go, eh, 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 eh.
So? You know, she's talking like kids do things that you tell them the very first time, and that's all. That's all you need to. That's all you need to say is just tell them once. What does it matter that you have to tell Jack to put his shoes on all the time? What's the problem with this situation? Other than she's presenting it in a way that's negative. She's such a horrible human being, Drippy says. I have to agree with you. Like, really, you're painting a scenario that's fairly common. So the children doesn't listen to the adult in the circumstance. And? Like, it does seem so like she's providing a justification for something that she's not willing to mention. That goes unsaid. Yeah, it's a poor 4-year-old child, Sweet Tea. 3-4-year-old child. Kids should run around their bare feet all the time. Who cares? Builds a good immune system. Let him get dirty. Let him have fun. Who cares if he doesn't have his shoes on? Who the hell are you to impose you over somebody else's child and start telling them what they need to do in that moment? You know, if it's really gross outside or you know, if there's maybe a reason for it, you can mention to the kid, but you would never remember, you'd never probably even remember doing it. You know, it's like, hey, you should really get your shoes on, little feller. Oh, well, see, I got other things to do. You know, you wouldn't even mention it. So why is she sitting there focused on this scenario like this? Because it was a constant thing in the household for her to obsess over and just use it back against Malaya to make her look like a less, or should I rephrase that and say, make her feel less than, thereby justifying Janie in her mind's ill treatment of her. Like, it pisses me off so much that it even sounds like I'm sitting here sticking up for Malaya in a situation like this. I'm not doing it intentionally, but you have to call it out for the sake of trying to build some sort of understanding of the environment and the circumstances that led up to the disappearance, or the reasons why we suspect that harm was brought to Jack and Lily. There's no hole in the driveway, darling. Maybe it's the way that you're looking at it. It's probably a shadow. All of that topsoil is brought back over, and the elevation and the grade is brought up. And the RV sits on top of it beside the chicken there, and it's kind of deceiving because it's actually a higher, looser grade of topsoil than the rest of the lot around it. It's a very bullshit, amateurish job. Why? Because usually you take earth out and then come and bring your fill in and let it settle down, and you tamper it. That's just brought up, and it probably washes all over Hell's Half Acre after every time it rains. Who knows? It does look like a sandy soil, but I think it's what they tweak out on over there. Trying to build their Mar-a-Lago there in Nova Scotia. Maybe they're building a Trump Plaza. Well, Ruby Shadow, he wasn't autistic and he wasn't nonverbal, number one. But I know what you're saying, Ruby.
That's all I would get out of him. Other than that, he was a curious little boy. That's all he would do all day. When he was outside was sit and turn boards over.
This coming from a key observer who spent the most time with these kids. She wants you to think that she spends all the time with these kids, and this is all that she can come up with, telling you that Jack just, the only thing that he did was just go, and turn boards over. And he was a curious little kid. That's about it. Does that sound like somebody that spends a lot of time around the children? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. How dare you talk about Jack and Lily like that, Janie? You're so disassociated from children. You don't even like kids, honey. There's no way that you even like to be around children. You know how we can tell? The fact that you live out in an RV in your driveway. That's how we can tell you don't like children. That tells you that you don't like to be around not just Jack and Lily and a screaming baby. You are irritated by loud noises in that sense. It's you, not your dog so much. Who cares about your dog? If you're irritated, your dog's irritated. You can put the dog outside. You put yourself outside.
Or rocks over looking for bugs and worms. I had my granddaughter down digging worms for the chickens. And he would come down there and he would grab every worm that he could see. And when it would come time to go feed the chickens, he goes, "No, they were my friends. I'm keeping them." He would play on the swing. He was a happy-go-lucky boy. Lily, she was a Miss Prim girl, as I would say, if that's what you call it. I guess they call her a diva or whatever, but to me, Miss...
You calling a 6-year-old child a diva? That could be considered cute if it was meant to be cute, but I don't think she means it in a cutesy-tootsy little way. I think the only one that's around here that's acting like a diva is Janie. Am I wrong? Yeah, that's classic victim blaming. You're saying, Kay? I think you're right. It does sound a lot like that, doesn't it?
Prim. Because whenever she would get her clothes dirty, she would go in and change her clothes. I never knew what that girl was going to come out in. She had a kitchen out in the yard. I had a play kitchen.
Not yet, Esther.
I got a play kitchen for them. Well, for my...
Because we know she's guilty of obstruction of justice, lying to authorities in this situation, and they'll have a whole laundry list of other charges that they would put on Janie. She's an accessory to murder. Think about the conspiracy in order to get away with the murder, not to mention their abuse of the corpses. You know where I'm going with all of that? Like she'll be moving on up out of that RV, no problem there. And to a provincial, then a federal institution probably. She'll get 3 hots and a cot. Like, really, she's really giving it away. No wonder that police were so suspicious of her. You're right, Daphne. Seriously, it sounds like she's talking about a dog, Miss Kay. You're right. You're right. They talk about Malaya and her kids like they're dogs. They're less than. They don't pay enough attention to them. And then they go and steal her parent valor in that sense and tell everybody that they're the ones who actually did all the spending of time around the kids and did all this. I even threw snowballs at them. We're sure you did. Just more admission of abuse. This is a 4 and a 6-year-old. And have been there for 2 years. So 2 and a 4-year-old child. I'd say the biggest problem in that household is Janie. Man, If she didn't know, then how would she use past tense? Silly woman, you've just told. She does that quite often. They all do in that circumstance. They don't give it the tense any mind. Which is great for us when we're trying to figure things out. Janie sounds like the after-school caregiver I had as a kid. My hair was long and she would sit me down to brush it. Always yank it hard, Christine says. Actually, I'll probably do that. I probably brush hair a little bit too hard as well. I'll do it a lot more gently next time. Sometimes you gotta yank that stuff hard. My daughter's hair tangles like crazy. I use detangler on it. But I still gotta yank it. Little heat, little water. Things work itself out. Yeah, Daphne, you like your hair brushed hard? Well, my daughter doesn't seem to complain about it sometimes. Some days I think I do. I feel like I do. Some days I just go, you know what? I'm going to get the scissors. I'm going to cut this little chunk out. You got a lot of hair.
My oldest two grandchildren, and when they weren't here, that's what she did. She'd play with the kitchen. She'd make mud pies. She'd pretend she was making hot chocolate or coffee or tea. If a bug got around her, she would scream, there's a bug, and she would go running in the house because there was a bug. Jack would just say, where's the bug? That's all they ever, from what I observed, they just played on the swings a lot. Her and the oldest grandchild would play on the swing. They would sit up there and they'd sing. I would sit there on my doorstep and listen to them sing. They would run around the yard, and that's all I ever heard was Lily say, come on, Jackie, let's go, Jackie. Come here and play, Jackie. Come here and play. They were bright little kids. They talked a breeze. Like when someone came into my yard, like if my brother came into my yard, they would come and say hi, and my brother would talk to them, and they would talk to him, and Jack would be there. Oh, look at my worms, or look at my bugs. I remember one day we caught a salamander, him and I, and Daniel said, Jack, you have to let the salamander go, because if not, it'll die. Well, I snuck the salamander out of the bucket.
You should have put it in Janie's top, down her bra.
And he looked for that salamander, and he cried, because we let his salamander go. Jack was just into bugs. He loved bugs. Lily was into the kitchen, making mud pies.
She was into the kitchen making mud pies. Well, that's not going to go over very well in my household. That's for outside.
And then,
but that's so weird. She's making mud pies, but she doesn't like to get dirty. Well, how is that possible? Is there a mud pie making machine out there that I don't know about? How do you make mud pies and not get dirty?
When my two oldest
and why are you making them in the kitchen?
Grandchildren would come down. Every second weekend they would come. My oldest granddaughter would come in here and they'd say, Granny, we want some snacks to go up to the little cabin they built, or the little fort they built. They built it themselves out of sticks and brush. And I'd say,
you know what? I'm sure they're great kids, but I highly doubt that they built a shelter all by themselves at 4 and 6 without some help in that sense, like somebody doing it for them. And we've seen the shelters, and there's no way a 4 and a 6-year-old built that. You know, granted, it is built like an ancient native hunting little shelter in the woods, but there's a little bit of design involved with it. You're telling me that Jack and Lily built those all by themselves? I think you're exaggerating a little bit, sweetheart.
there's the fridge. My other two grandchildren.
Especially when you're telling us that Lily is prim and proper and doesn't like to get dirty whatsoever. And Jack, you can't get him to do anything in that circumstance. He doesn't want to even go into the bush very far. I mean, so now they're up in the bush building themselves log shelters, you know, heavy stick shelters in that sense. Come on. Well, I certainly wish I was there, Christian. But you noticed that the toys looked new and unplayed with in that sense, more staged than anything. Could be. I would love that place as a kid. To be honest with you, it wouldn't matter. Like, kids really don't know the difference in that sense when they're in it. But I would have loved it. I don't think that it's not consistent with a normal scenario. Like, Christ, you can see the path where the kids take back to everybody takes to the chicken coop in the playhouse. And actually the playhouse doesn't look like the kids play with it much. Not that that's a big, tell or anything. But when you listen to Janie's claims and all of this, and trying to get an understanding about the kids' lives, it's so difficult to believe anything that she says, because it's constant contradictions. Daniel built those forts, or that fort, for his older kids, in your opinion, Kristen? I think you're probably right on the money. Probably been there forever in that sense. And Jack and Lily are just told to play up there in that circumstance. I would think so. Man, I can't get over how she just lies like a crazy Persian rug. Man, it's amazing. Tells you how desperate she is, in my opinion. Hey, anybody else notice the suspect out there that's really nervous and sweating and ready to jump out of their skin and angry and swinging at the fences? You guys think that's suspect at all? Fuck, we don't even have to interview her. Put the cuffs on. We can see you sweating from here. Hell, heaven's sakes. It's like Janie is on the cusp of just, shaking and falling apart. Held together by a little bit of glue. You done told too much. You done said too much there, Janie. If I could make an early prediction, I'm going to have to say that Janie, should she survive long enough, should her heart hold out, Janie here is going to be the first one that if it hasn't happened already. Think about everything that we've picked out, each being a little bit of circumstantial evidence. Think about what the police noticed and have for accumulation, because you need time to pass in order to accumulate, right? Obviously. It just doesn't all happen at one, but, there's so many contradictions that require further follow-up interviewing. You would be hard to think that there isn't going to be a time that comes in the future where they're not going to be questioned a little bit further, a little bit deeper. What scares me is that, when you think about it now, it's like you take it for granted, thinking, well, the police must believe them in that regard. And I don't think that that's true. It cannot be true. Like, it's laughable how unbelievable their story is in all of this. And the statements about her, it's just not... I'm surprised she hasn't cried more about having a heart issue, Rhiannon. We'll just wait. That'll be your next one. Too many contradictions, in your opinion, Anna? Oh, definitely. From an investigative standpoint, there's too many to just let go by the wayside. They just know it on a different level. They have to suppress some of the information that they have. Man, the tell, Daniel really messed up when he told that story. He gave it away. He really documented himself contradicting his and Janie's fabricated narrative about Malaya in the driveway. Maybe Amanda says, maybe Janie made the whole heart story up because her poly was inconclusive. All she had to do was just go in there and act normal. Oh, shit. She just went in there. She was herself. Sorry, honey. I don't know how to ask you a question. Could you imagine her being asked if she had anything to do with the unaliving in that sense, or those questions? Look at what she did on the CBC. She was shook. She was affected in that sense. She was definitely demonstrating what would otherwise be known as deception. Hard sensitivities in statement analysis, excuse me. There's a lot of those in this circumstance, isn't there? There's a lot within all of the information that they've come out. And granted, all of the information that people have gotten have come by way of Daniel, Janie, and that's it. And look at where we are. Maybe all of that piss and vinegar keeps her heart ticking. A heart doesn't lie if you possess one. Janie. All these heart references. All these heart references. My son had nothing to do with this. Boy, she's really adamant about that. Well, how do you know? Because I did it. It's me. I'm the fucking culprit, she'll say, Tammy Burke. Is that where you're going with that? Yeah, it wasn't Daniel. It was me who did it. Wouldn't that be a strange twist to the narrative? That's, my Hollywood part of my mind working, right? Of course. But listen, it would be inappropriate for me to say that I know anything in that circumstance. I'm like you. We try to figure this out. But I'm so happy I spent a lot of my time learning statement analysis at this point. All the little boys love bugs. I know I used to at that age, Amy. I think it was around 3 or 4 that we used to love to catch ants and collect them in the back. I used to love that stuff. It was the greatest thing. When you're that small and you discover something, as you're down at that level anyway, so it all sticks out to you. It's like, look at all the things moving on the ground. What is that? So cool. I don't know about centipedes so much. They're a little bit more rare. Around here they are anyway. I'm like, ooh, that's a little bit too creepy crawly, but they are cool from a distance. But that's like the prize, right? Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I don't know. She certainly spends a lot of time talking about, it's a weird thing to say about a kid. Like, my child likes to do a lot of things too. Why would I, of all things, think about turning over logs and collecting worms and bugs? Well, we can't quite tell, because maybe she is being a bit truthful there. Maybe that's just an instance that she remembers that's stuck in her mind from recently. Maybe it's a reference to something else if you want to look deeper into it. Maybe it is to you. Janie blames Malaya for doing this to her son. Absolutely, Miss Kay. Thank you very much, by the way. Bring us back on track with that. Good to see you, Mr. Heavy. And wherever Layla is, I hope you're not mad at me, Layla. Don't let my video get into your mind. You're still welcome here, darling. It was me who was confused, not you. What the hell are roly-polies? Oh, those potato bugs. They're actually wood ticks. or wood fleas, I believe they're called, Daphne. That you touch and they curl up into a little ball and you can flick them. Is that what you call them, roly-polies? Yeah, I remember those. Those are actually wood ticks. Or they're wood something. Wood ticks probably. Or potato bugs, I've heard before as well. Yeah, see, somebody calls them potato bugs. I am right. Yeah, I used to love them. Are you Canadian, Kay? Maybe it's a Canadian thing. I don't know. They're usually on the underside of logs on the wood pile in the moist parts. All right, stop interrupting Janie. She's got something to say.
They could have whatever they wanted. My fridge was like one of those doors when you go into a store. It would open and close all the time.
It's another thing for her to complain about. But how big could the fridge be in that RV? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, Daphne, I am. How big could that fridge be in her RV that she needs to complain about it? I thought, mekase sukase here.
My oldest granddaughter would come in here and she would take snacks for all of them and pack them in her backpack and go up to the camp. And another thing, the backpack thing. I've never seen Lily outside with that backpack. Daniel told me that they always tried to keep her from taking it outside. But I've never seen her with that pack. The only time outside playing, but the time I did see her with the backpack is when my two other grandchildren would come down. She'd want a backpack too because the oldest grandchild had a backpack and she wanted to be just like her.
Oh, cool. She had a role model in her life, which was Daniel's other daughter with the backpack. So the backpack narrative fits in there. So this picture that we're seeing here, we get confused about this being perhaps the day of the search. I'm not so sure about that. People are telling me in my comments section that this was taken by Malaya or somebody else, and it might not be from the particular search, so therefore not relevant. It's just an image of Daniel and his brother Justin on his mom's four-wheeler. Careful how you're touching that four-wheeler there, bud. Your mom doesn't want you using it, remember? Oh, I don't let Justin drive my four-wheeler. I never ever heard a woman get upset over her four-wheeler before. It kind of turns me on a little bit, but then I remember it's Janie, and I'm like, wah, wah. Kind of, for a second there, I was attracted to a woman who's fighting for her four-wheeler. That sounds like my kind of girl. You're like, oh, perfect. She wouldn't complain when I spent 10 grand on one then. No, it's Janie. She's taken.
And have a backpack. Oh, and another thing, when we go walking up the old road here, up the top of the hill here, up above my place there, if Jack didn't want to walk, Jack wouldn't walk. He would stand there and he would I'd say, "Come on, Jack, we're gonna walk." He would stand there and he would stamp his feet, fold his arms, and just look at me. And I'd say, "Come on, Jack, we're going for a walk." I'd have to go and take him by the hand to make him walk. Jack was a kid. If he didn't want to do something, he wasn't going to do it. Lily, she would walk along. I'd have to yell at Lily, "Lily, wait up for us, wait up for us." But Jack, no. Jack would not move if you didn't take him by the hand and tell him to come on.
Well, that's a good boy then. That's obedient. So what's the problem? What is she saying when she's telling us this? What's her point? Do you find yourself trying to think about what the fuck her point is at any one point in time with anything that she's saying? Hey, Lady Lolo. Not to be rude, but that's a bit of a pattern, right? Why am I the one trying to figure out Janie's point on a constant basis? I mean, it is kind of fun to try to figure it out and all the different possibilities, but do you ever think that that's kind of part of the reason she's doing it in the first place, to help out her narrative? To advance or further her narrative in that sense, to build on it, strengthen it? Or, oh, wait for it, galvanize her narrative a little bit. Oh, I think I'm on to something. That's a fancy word. I feel like she's reminiscing of one occasion, Christian, when she's discussing the kids and her role, you mean? Janie and Daniel want to control the narrative so they won't talk to anyone. Yeah, they've got enough out already. They shouldn't have to do much more talking, you would think. Not until the court starts. Listen, think about from the police's perspective. It was amazing to me looking back on it. It was surprising looking back and Daniel going on the CBC and on a national broadcast, considering the circumstances and what at that time the questions in this situation were. Hold on. Can you turn that down a bit, please? That he would point the finger at Malaya and tell, in front of everybody how guilty she was. That he's going to be visiting her in prison. He'll bring Meadow up for visitation and all of this. I think that was, one of the most powerful statements up there. And it was just him, one, exaggerating, but why would you have the need to do that? You've just told everybody that the story that the media are going with is false, essentially. And something other than what you reported happened. That's going to be a problem with any, even rookie detectives anywhere all the time. It's impossible to miss that. How is it that you're so sure that you're sitting up there on the CBC blaming Malaya, selectively blaming her, but you selectively did that on the CBC, and you discredited your narrative and undermined it right away, nationally? There's no going back from that one. Like, there's no erasing that fuck up. No mulligan there. That is such a strong, powerful, permissible in court example of, to a jury, that there is lies about. The narrative that you guys presented is false, and you're on the national news telling the world that you'll be visiting Malaya when she's in prison. He did all of this in the confusion of what would otherwise be considered a breakup and block immediately, second day after the search. It bought themselves some time. When the police are being lied to constantly, it's going to take them a lot longer to figure things out their way. And unfortunately, they're not going to hold our hands and take us along for the ride. So it's better that you're friends with one and have them speak off the record than have them on your broadcast, because it's just not happening. You'll be frustrated. It's better that you learn statement analysis and follow your own lanes in that sense. Although often I feel bad with Mike. Mike gets mad when he seems that other people are just going and repeating what it is that he's saying. Did you hear him say that? I'm like, Mike, in that sense, I don't think there's anybody else out there. Maybe I'm not thinking, or he's talking about something I don't know about. But a lot of times people will pick up on points that they get from other creators and either dovetail or continue the conversation in these circumstances, because all of the points Mike brings up over there are so good. You know, and he's mad because he thinks other people are going over and stealing his points and maybe re-rinsing and using them over on their channel. That's what I got from his live stream late last night. Not that that is a problem here. It's not like it's necessary, right? I just love to delve into statement analysis, and I love his adaptation of Plaids. I'm a big fan of that. And it comes from the love of Peter Hyatt in that sense. In the most Christian sense of the word. You don't watch Mike Daphne? Drippy, it was ridiculous. Let me see. Can't wait until they all go to the Clink Norbeaster. I'll make the journey. Get my old truck and we'll drive her one way. Hi, Chelsea. Ruby Shadow. Let me see. Like, they really did their best early on to try to have this Malaya pass them off to an awaiting vehicle claim. Like this story. I'm starting to really wonder if Darren added that himself or if it was indeed Janie that put that into his head.
Apparently Lily was the only one that was sick. I think the reason why Jack didn't go to school is because I did think I don't think she wanted Jack to go to school by herself. That's my opinion. They missed school to Thursday, yes. They went to town Thursday around lunchtime. I have no idea what they went. I do not even know what they bought. I heard them out in the yard here Thursday afternoon. And when I heard them out, my dog started barking. My dog tells me when the kids are in the yard. Okay? I went out. When they heard them out in the yard, my dog started barking. I opened the door and let my dog out. My dog is penned in. I do not let my dog around Jack and Lily. From what I hear through...
Just to interject a little bit here about this dog situation. You know, you had 2 years. If it was a healthy environment, you would think that, you know, part of being climatized is socializing the dog with the children. You know, so you don't have to go through this stranger in the yard scenario over and over and over and over again to the point it drives you up the wall and you hold it against the kids because you refuse to socialize your dog with the children. Why is that? Because for somebody who is so akin to her animal and dog, you would think that you would understand what you need to do as a dog owner so that your dog doesn't become angry towards certain people. Like, you know how, you know, historically, traditionally, people used to abuse animals to train them to go after specific ethnic groups. There's certain ways that you treat your animal in order for it to react in certain scenarios. And that's indirectly what Janie is doing. And she's putting all of the blame on Lily, on the victim, and her scream for the reason why her dog is so fucking upset all of the time. Really? It's actually why you're upset all of the time. And then therefore your dog, your animal, because you're the food master. You're the alpha in that situation. Does that make sense? That's what I get when she describes the situation with her dog. She's the one who's it's not even realistic as a responsible dog owner, especially around your own family. Like, I mean, it's not like this is a dispute between two neighbors, you know, and there's no reason to be, you know, socializing your dog around the people so they don't get hurt. It's healthy for the dog. The kids learn about it, and it's another bonding moment, right? So why are you so against this scenario. That speaks to me, no matter what, about the natural way of things day in and day out all the time over those 2 years. Contributing to the negative, contributing to the resentment and the justification in her own mind why she could continue to mistreat the children in Malaya. There's no doubt in my mind that this led up. That she was in. Look, they're almost out in December. They almost made it out alive. And you get little glimpses of Janie, like you did last night, where she's talking about fighting for her grandkids in court, and she showed that psychopathy, a little window briefly. That ain't nothing going to stop her from essentially accomplishing what would otherwise be not her business or right. Interfering in her grandmotherhood. She was placing herself over the role of the mother in each situation. And you know what's funny? There's a biblical story about that as well. I think Mike brought that up from Peter Hyatt. That's another one. I can't remember if it's the story of Solomon. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I shouldn't even be quoting that if I don't know it, but I'm not going to. My dog has never been around small children, but I started watching a friend's baby and my dog is fine. You still never leave a dog by itself around small children. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, right. But she was treating them as there's a reason. She was treating them as strangers in her own backyard and holding them against them. It's really insulting. It makes me feel sad for Jack and Lily in that sense. Is that what I'm thinking of, Slim Pickens? King Solomon and the Stolen Baby? And what it's about is undermining the natural maternal instinct. You know what I mean? And that's what Janie does in this situation. She does everything she can to undermine the natural maternal instinct, probably because she's a self-loathing bitch. Yeah, I'm glad you're picking up what I was putting out there. Thanks, Slim. I think that's the point that Mike was making last night. I think that stuck with me. Oh, thank you, Chair. Hold on. One moment, please. There you go. There you go, dear. It breaks your heart, Christian, that they were considered a nuisance at best. That's a good way to express it. It is heartbreaking. And there'd be there's no way that Malaya would have known going into this situation, right? Like, think about it ending up in a scenario like this. This is, you're there and you have to go through it because you're currently impoverished. You're going through hard financial times, so you don't have any other place to turn but this old woman who, like it or not, no matter what she says, you can feel the evil. You can feel the anger and the hate and the disdain and the resentment and the guilty knowledge just steam off her like sweat on a, on a cold day when your body's so much more warmer than the air around you. I know it was speculated and the swings were new. But Janie say Jack played on the swings as a singular swing? I'm not sure. She doesn't worry too much about her grammar in that sense, you've noticed.
The grapevine, Jack and Lily have not been around animals. When they first came here, I tried to introduce my dog to Jack and Lily, and Lily started to scream because my dog was near her. Ever since that, I've kept my dog away from the kids, Jack and Lily.
So are we to suspect? Like, think about how illogical that is. Well, yeah, that's what you have to go through. You have to deal with the temperament of the animal and the child. It doesn't mean you have to stop and never do it again. And the fact that you're bringing it up as a reason why you had to deal with things a certain way at this point in time worries me a bit. So if you're this illogical and unreasonable when it comes to how ridiculous that you mistreat your dog, essentially, you're abusing your dog too here, which I'm sorry to have to admit. Am I wrong, guys? That's the exact opposite thing that you would do in a circumstance like this. You have to then train the dog as well. This is what you didn't want to do. You just think these things naturally happen. If life were just that simple, usually it takes some time to transition and practice before the change in behavior occurs in that sense. This is like a real authoritarian, a totalitarian, a beat them with a big stick until they, submit type of individual personality here.
Thursday when I opened up the door, Jack and Lily were right beside the playhouse looking for worms under a board. Jack said to me, "Look, Granny, I found a worm. I found a centipede." I said, "Good boy, you keep looking." That's when I went over in my front.
What's really suspect about this story is that her and Daniel retell this story in the exact same way, word for word, as opposed, like, this is a scenario, if you were in this situation where it's okay to tell the story different ways because you're telling it so many times, you get better at recalling memory, and you can open up and say, I was doing it this way. But instead they choose to recite their scripted lines word for word each and every time, as though it was effectively written out and they're just following it in that sense. And rehearsed is the term. You're right. Thank you very much, Jonah. Rehearsed. Such a red flag, isn't it? Man.
Of my RV, it started raking the gravel for the swimming pool. Because I was waiting for Daniel to find his tools so he could help me put the top board up on the fence so I could put the boards up, because I couldn't hold one end and nail the other end. Anybody that knows that, anybody that does carpentry knows that that's impossible to do, to get that it balanced and hold.
I don't think you're exactly a carpenter there, Nutty.
Hold one end up and the other end drop.
Anybody that knows carpentry.
After Daniel helped me, I continue putting the boards on the fence. But there was another fence on the other side that was there before that. So I was out there doing my fence. Jack and Lily were in the backyard playing. I came in the house to have some supper. I do not know when the kids went in the house.
She does baby talk.
I don't know what time they went to bed. I don't know anything of that. That's all I can tell you is from what I told you. My brother called me at 8:48. We talked for 2 minutes, 59 seconds. After that, I laid down. My dog barked because Lily and Jack were here where the swings are. I have a board up over my window. I did not see them because the board was closed. The reason I have a board up over my window is for the winter time to keep the draft out and for the summertime to keep the sun out. I heard them Friday morning. I swear on a Bible.
Ooh, that tells me that you didn't hear them that morning. Now you're telling it that this is bad. No, I'm not just talking about the reasoning behind boarding up your windows. That's bad. That's a bad sign for business. Oh, Joyous N, thank you very much. 10 memberships. That's very, very generous of you, darling. My goodness.
Better than that, I swear on my father's grave, I heard them Friday morning. So the kids were here Friday morning. After that, I don't know what happened to them. My first instinct when she told me the kids were missing was check the woods. That's what I did. And when I found out they were not in the woods, I said they're not in the woods. And for what she said about Jack and Lily wandering, that's a bunch of BS. The only time they go anywhere up in the woods is when my other 2 grandchildren are here. And they're always kept an eye on by me. And if Daniel's in the yard, he watches them too. And for what she said,
it's interesting that she places Daniel secondary to who is spending all of their time around these children. Isn't that interesting? That she's really insistent that she is the one who spends all of this time, the free time around the children, enough to hold a grudge against Malaya. She's always being judged and critiqued for not spending near enough time around her own children, in Janie's opinion. You're saying Sweet Tea she coddles Daniel? Why is she delaying her words for F's sakes, Tammy? She does that consistently because she's fabricating and she's being careful. What we're observing or listening to is her posing the question in her mind, and she's a fast talker, okay? And what she's doing is slowing down, like Mike Demand's been recently talking about, and that's an indicator of being careful about what you're about to say, because you don't want to get your head of yourself, because essentially you have to do more processes in your mind in order to track your information before you say it. So it impedes the words coming out of your mouth, and you hear it in real time with her, because she's a fucking liar. She's just a liar in this particular circumstance. She's lying about everything. Can usually tell lies as voice changes pitch. Well, sometimes you can't tell with good liars. In this circumstance, you can tell. Oh. It has all the tells. She's a real character. It's like her psyche is forcing herself to it's like, what's that Jim Carrey movie, Liar Liar? Is it Liar Liar? Where he can't tell a lie. That's what it is. It's a bit like Liar Liar with Janie.
Said about Jack and Lily wandering, that's a bunch of BS. The only time they go anywhere up in the woods is when my other 2 grandchildren are here, and they're always kept an eye on by me. And if Daniel's in the yard, he watches them too. And the kids have never wandered away or never gone in the woods by themselves in the last 2 years. Why all of a sudden would they do it Friday morning? And there's three questions I cannot answer. The first question is who would know the kids were home? And number 2, who would know when they were outside? And number 3, when I saw Malaya outside my RV, why wasn't she crying or why wasn't she hysterical if her kids went missing 20 minutes ago?
So now she takes the questions that the RCMP asked her, and she's mirroring that back on everybody else as though they were coming from her in that sense. No, that's the questions that you should be answering, not us. All right, we're figuring that out there, honey. You know, you mean besides you? You qualify as a person who would be. I'm not insinuating that it's your responsibility, but now you're an accessory to this crime there, Janie.
And here's another thing for you to think about. I lived here for 26 years. I've raised my 2 boys here. I've been in this community for 60 years. I was born and raised here. My homestead is where my brother lives. So, I know the traffic on this road. After 26 years, I know the traffic on this road. Now, nobody is going to go by here and say, oh, there's 2 kids in the yard. Let's stop and pick them up. For number 1, that's where those 3 questions come into. And here's another thing for you to think about. I lived here for 26 years.
So all of a sudden, after 26 years, here's a part of her problem I'm getting. Is that after 26 years of living in that stanky-ass old trailer on the side of Garlock Road, things have gotten so difficult that Daniel had to move Malaya and pregnant wife and 2 kids in, girlfriend. And right away, it didn't work out. They had no other choice. It didn't work out, and Janie moved out of that house or that trailer after being in there for 26 years because she couldn't handle being around all of the noise and hustle and bustle of a family with 3 very young children in that sense. And she's told us this. I know that because she told us that directly. But she talks around it, right? This is something that deserves more conversation, Janie, in an investigative, interview room, I guess.
I've raised... And as far as Malaya being isolated, that's a bunch of bullcrap. Because she used to drive Daniel to work when he was working full time. And there's something else I'm going to straighten you out about too in a minute. When she wanted the car, she would drive Daniel to work. She would go do what she had to do. She would even bring Daniel his lunch. She would come home. Then she would go back in the evening and pick Daniel up. So she was free to go whenever she wanted to go. And another thing, the reason why Daniel is only working 1 day a week is because of this here tariff tax. The mill is having problems getting logs. That's the only reason why the mill is down 1 day a week. And that started in, I think, February. They started going down 1 way a day.
So, do I understand this correctly, that you're blaming this on Donald Trump somehow? Wouldn't that be hilarious? You're talking about Temu and blaming this on Don Trump's tariffs? How dare you, madam? Anything but to take any sort of accountability. It's everybody else in this particular scenario. So what is it you're actually saying?
A week, but just in the last 3 weeks, They've been full time. They've been 3 weeks steady, 5 days a week. So, if anybody thinks that Malaya was isolated, she had every chance in the world to go wherever she wanted. That's all she had to do was ask Daniel for the car, and Daniel gave her the car.
Well, although I think that she's confusing the definition in the sense of isolated, and she's undermining any sort of concerns that was raised by Malaya at one time by overlooking it in the circumstance. I think, she still brings up a point. I don't think it's relevant to what the point that she was trying to make was, though. She was planning to leave. All right? She didn't want to be there in the first place. She wasn't having a good go of it. And it had everything to do with Janie being put out in the circumstance. She didn't want to be there in the first place. And she told that to Belinda Gray through text message. We know that. It's just we don't know Malaya at that point in time of reading it to know its significance to the greater situation at hand. But we do now.
And there in April, she bought a car on her own. So if she wanted to leave, she could have left in April. She could have left any time she wanted. She knew me.
That's probably how their arguments go too, internally there. You can leave. That's like passive aggressiveness, isn't it? You can leave anytime you want, When in fact you're not taking the other person's concern into consideration at that point in time, possibly. Not isolated doesn't mean having access to a car. It's being tied to the home because you can't financially go anywhere else. You don't have the means in order to, go and do anything else, especially now that Daniel's not working in that sense. And it's still expensive in that sense. So they came back to the house in order to get by for 2 years. While Daniel's about to have another child, like, how are you going to save money? Like, how is this going to go? These are questions that Janie isn't too, lax, that she isn't going to understand that as well. She just never seems to talk about it or bring it up. Like, she just wants everybody to think that she's doing this out of the goodness of her heart, just like Daniel tells everybody that he's searching for Jack and Lily out of the goodness of his heart. But we all know the world doesn't exactly work like that. So not only did they put her out and she's put off a little bit by it, this is a lot different than camping in the summer and having a little fun place to go and stay. You're living in an RV, dude, full time. Living in that fucking thing full time. Like, first of all, my TV doesn't even fit on the side of that goddamn wall. That's going to be a problem. There's no space whatsoever in an RV. It's not made to be spacious. It's made to be rolling down the highway, used for camping. It's got to be filthy in there. She's got the top sealed off so the water won't come in. Like, it's dilapidated. It's not the greatest scenario. One could argue you should drive that thing to the junkyard, take what you can and buy a can of paint and paint the roof of the chicken coop and maybe fix it up a little bit and sleep in there like it's the 1800s. That's not even glamping, bro. Janie, you're not even glamping, girl. That's like method acting. This is like Mickey Rourke level method acting as a homeless convict. And she is playing the part.
She knew if she wanted to leave and Daniel put up a fuss, she knew that I would step in and make her go, or let her go.
And make her
I
go.
would not stop her from leaving. Even though Daniel's my son, if that's the time.
She's really confusing the scenario right there, isn't it? you wouldn't stop Malaya from leaving. It's not about Malaya from leaving. You see how she's confusing it there? She's just arguing anything. She's like she's a madman. She's swinging at the fences. She's combative. And she doesn't even care, does she? She doesn't seem to care. Sometimes she catches herself. But it's all around straightening people out and telling you the truth. This time. The real truth this time. It's going to be the real truth this time. She lives in the van down by the dirt pile. That's right. Rhiannon. Yeah, I'm not hating on her. Like, I mean, but the reason why we bring it up, why it's relevant, is because it speaks to the conditions that the children were living in and the anger that was building towards Malaya and the kids in this circumstance. And they want to pretend that doesn't actually exist. And they can't do that. You know, their words, they say it one way, but their tone is completely one of anger and contempt. They can't find the good things to say. It's similar to what Trezell and Jacqueline West in front of the camera, they had the same sort of problem, and they demanded their privacy in this scenario, because Janie really alludes to wanting and having all of this information that journalists want to bribe her with, and she's letting everybody know that she's not accepting the bribes. So what does that tell you? It tells you that she's withholding information. That's what she just said. She's withholding information, and people know it. People are approaching her with bribes in order to get that story, and she's not fallen for that trick. And she wants you to think that that's a virtuous thing in this scenario. See how she confuses things in real time? She does that often.
I would step in. So, people can't say that she didn't want to live here because she was isolated, that she couldn't go anywhere. That's a bunch of bull crap.
That statement didn't even make sense. Listen to this one more time. It makes no sense. Don't allow your mind to give her the benefit of the doubt. Try to follow it along just for the exercise in the circumstance, and try to make sense of it in your mind from the words that she speaks. And you can see that she confuses things on purpose. She's purposefully obfuscating in this scenario because she's not really saying anything. She should be. The whole reason to get in front of or between or break up what would otherwise be known as a domestic incident would be to hold back the aggressor in that circumstance and allow the woman to do what she needs to do. All right? Every time. Every single time. Not just this time. Not well, I should say every time. The majority of the time, because sometimes men are the victims in these things as well, but not this time. I apologize. I almost caught myself there. I have to be politically correct.
Even though Daniel's my son, if that's the time, I would step in. So, people can't say that she didn't want to live here because she was isolated, that she couldn't go anywhere. That's a bunch of bull crap. And she had the use of my vehicle too, whenever she wanted it. So, if people think that she didn't want to live here because she was isolated, if that's what she's telling everybody, well, or if that's what you're hearing, that's a bunch of bull crap. And if she did want to leave, and I wasn't around to stop Daniel from letting her leave, there's always 911. There's always a way out. No, I'm fine. I'm just thankful that somebody is listening to me and not bashing me for what I'm saying. As I said, the accusation and the rumors have to stop. It's not good for me, for my dog, for my grandchildren especially, for Lily and Jack. These accusations have got to stop.
See, the priorities. Her priorities are solely the accusations. Guys, don't believe your natural five senses. Ignore that and believe what it is that I'm telling you. Your senses are wrong. Please stop with the accusations. That's what her concern is.
I don't know what's going on with my grandchildren. I don't know how they're feeling. I can't talk to them. I wished on the 25th of June, I wished my granddaughter a happy birthday through Messenger. I couldn't even see her. I couldn't even go to her party or anything. The rumors and the accusations have got to stop.
Ooh, I want to hear those, Daphne.
That's all anybody can do is hopefully that where Jack and Lily are is they're found soon, safe and sound. Either way, I'm not going to say it because I don't believe they are in my heart. Just keep praying for Jack and Lily, and I've been doing it every night. I'm hoping to God that he'll answer me. I'm hoping that the people that know where Jack and Lily are will please, I'm begging you, please drop them off here. They will be safe. We will get them to the authorities. That's all I want. That's all anybody wants.
Yeah, you got it, NYC Boomer.
If there is enough people praying,
do that,
and enough
Daphne.
people out there
fantastic.
looking for them, hopefully we can find
that.
them. Hopefully we can bring them home.
Screen record and upload them and send me the link,
Lily
Daphne.
and Jack must be out of their minds, not knowing what's going on or what's happening to them. They don't deserve that. They don't. I wouldn't even
What is it she's thinking that's happening to them in that scenario, I wonder? They don't know what it is that's happened. Jack and Lily don't understand what it is that's happening to them. What are you speaking about specifically, I wonder? I wonder what she was referring to. No matter what it is, that's a tell that she's withholding information. She knows a lot more than she wants you to think. Iwashan, why couldn't you see your grandchildren if you're innocent? That's directed at Janie in that sense. Yeah. You see how she spins that around and utilizes it as a point of virtue rather than a point of question in a situation where there's two missing children and she was the last one to see them? As she tells you that she was the person who spent most of the time around them. I could just imagine. One, well, look at the proximity. Oh, you know what? We're going to go into part 3 then. Everybody's leaving. 2.5 hours as people are dropping off of my live chat, y'all. We can pick it up because there's so much more to go in this circumstance. It's not like we're going to listen to it all tonight. It's impossible. We have to break it down and talk about it. You know, these things need to stick in your mind. So we'll break it into a part 3. We need something to talk about anyway. It's probably time for other people to go live at this point in time. And for me to go feed my family. Quit neglecting my family up in here. Quit neglecting our stomachs. Go make me a sandwich. What's for dinner tonight? I might do hamburgers tonight. Hamburgers at my grocery store just went up. I can't believe what I just spent on hamburgers last night. I'm like, what? What? I don't even want to tell you. I'm embarrassed. Don't even want to tell you what eight, 8-pack of the fast fries that you put in the freezer. Fuck. Don't even want to tell you. It is outrageous, the prices. That's some gouging going on right there. But the good news is I got half price bacon, or half price to me. So I got 2 packages. Spent just as much, but got 2 for 1 type of thing. So I guess it evened out. Even Steven. But anyway, let's go get some food. And thank you very much for stopping by and putting yourself through this. It's Janie. But there's a lot that needs to be talked about when it comes to the deception at this point in time. Because remember, we're sure that she has guilty knowledge. And they're still walking around free as a bird. Paranoid, mind you. They're paranoid and crazy. But she wants, and it's putting all the blame back onto you people for not understanding how innocent she is. If you don't believe her, that's your problem. If you don't believe her, then it's you who's wrong. I'll talk to you guys in a little bit.